I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is a special call meeting, Thursday, January 26th at 5:30 p.m. It's in the City Council chambers, okay? And we will, first of all, welcome everybody. Thank you for being here on special meetings. And then we'll go right into our agenda items, which is agenda item number 2, discussion with citizens on water quality issues. And then parentheses, groundwater. And if you haven't signed up on here, I'll still let you sign up, or after you speak, I'll put your name on here. But there are a few folks that have asked to speak on that agenda item. And the first one is Shannon Clazel. If you'll step up to the podium and introduce yourself, and then
Is it on? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I live on 608 Park Drive, and we have bad water off and on. Some days it's yellow, some days it's brown, looks like tea. And I surely don't wanna drink it, and I don't wanna use it for anything. I've been drinking a lot of bottled water. But there's days when it's clear, but it just bothers me that it looks like that, and who wants to drink water that looks like that? So, I'm wondering what y'all can do to fix the problem.
How long would you say that's been going on? Years?
A lot, yeah, years. I mean, I'm at 608 Bard Drive now, but I was at 606. That house is currently for sale. And it's been going on over there for a long time too. I've only been to the new house 4 months, but the old house, like 14 years. It's probably been going on most of that time.
How long does it clear up? I mean, after it's brown,
Well, sometimes it'll clear up quick, but you never know, your toilets are all brown, the water's in there is brown, the water coming out of the faucet's brown, you fill up the bathtub, it's brown, I mean, it's just, who wants to take a bath in that or drink it or cook it? That's all I can say, I guess.
So, Ms. Clazel, just, I know you had an open-ended question, what can y'all do?
Yes,
I mean, he's got some stuff that he will present
okay,
to everyone, so if some of the other folks that wanna come up, maybe ask him the same question. So,
okay.
I mean, he can answer you if you're okay with just letting some of the other folks and maybe one answer or
You can
several
do one
answers.
at the end when everybody
Okay,
talks.
okay, just wanna make sure I'm taking care of you because you asked to speak and you asked a question, so all good, okay. Todd Lapine,
I have the same,
if you'll stand up, please, and introduce yourself.
I'm Todd Lapine and I live on 104 Franklin. And I have the same issues. It's probably once a month I call the city to come flush the flush valve that they've added to the end of the alley. And I think they also flushed the hydrant at where David McCoskey used to live. I'm not sure if that's the one that's flushed, I think it is. And Monday it was horrible. I'm remodeling the bathroom, I won't get into that. But I flushed the toilet just to flush it, and it was clean before I flushed it, and when I flushed it, I don't know why I flushed it. It came up looking like tea, iced tea. Flushed it again, iced tea. And it's been going on, I can't tell you how many years. I drink my water out of my refrigerator, hoping that filter catches. Cause it's clean out of that filter water. They did replace our line in the alley with a 2-inch PVC line, because I think our line only feeds my side of the street and the Hoover side of the neighbors, which you're only talking like 5 houses on each side. But they did tie it back in right at 155, which is the original line. And that's another, I know I'm a plumber, most of y'all know that, some of y'all know that. I think that main in 155 is transite pipe, which is an asbestos-based pipe. And Weimer's not the only town. I've done a lot of work in Howellsville and all these little towns. Back then they used transite pipes, about 1 inch thick, it's real brittle. So when you tap that pipe, if you need to make a live tap to put a new line in, my concern concern is too with that is how much is that asbestos going through that system after you, cause you drill and tap it and through the new valve, so, but it's, you put a saddle on there and then you drill through and then and as you pull it out, you cut the valve off, so. That's just another concern, which Wyoming's not the only town, I know there's, all these little towns have transite pipe and they might be in big cities too. And I know we can't change all that, probably don't have the funds to do it all, but that's something to think about too, but who all has transite pipe and where is all that at? Because it is asbestos material, and we all know that asbestos is harmful to us. And we have little Einstein right on the corner, which my grandson goes to. But I've heard they bought bottled water, they're not drinking mineral water. They're giving all their kids their bottled water. But that's all I got. That's,
Okay, thank you.
mhm.
I know you kinda had a question in there, but are you okay with an answer
Yeah,
to the group? Okay, just making sure. Those were the only two that signed up, but I'm assuming Ms. Duffy.
Would you like me to do it?
Well, no, I'm just gonna put you on the agenda item sign up
I
sheet.
can talk.
You're good, okay, good, okay.
Yeah. I will.
You were before Thomas on this other one, so I'll let you go.
I didn't know if
If
I
you-
wanted to talk.
No, you're-
Thank you for giving me a chance.
Sure, introduce yourself.
My name's Ariel Duffy. I live at 604 Park Drive, next to Miss Playboy. We've only lived here since August of '24, so I can't say that, we've had a long-term problem with our water. But, it has been more recently getting worse. So, I guess, what was it, last week? The week before? I mean, it was the color of your koozie, and you couldn't see through it. Then more apple cider vinegar colored. And that's been on and off for quite some time. I gave a lot of my questions already to Mr. Dixon in an email. I'm hoping that he could get those, there were a lot, it's like 15 questions to start with. I'm hoping that he could get maybe that email sent out, so, whoever can help him answer those questions, they were really important, I think, for the community to see the answers to. Not just an open-ended, we're working on it, or these are gonna be addressed. I think we're all looking for just very specific, solid answers, so we're not wondering. But really, that was what, my concerns were. I looked for specific answers and a plan. My sister lives over here on this side of the neighborhood near the park. There's been times where she'll call me and say, my water smells like flowers today. My water has a blue tint today. My water smells like sewage today. So it's not just our neighborhood over here, it's everywhere. There's a couple of community members that have told me things like, Mr. Grauman, for instance, today, he told me, he worked on the water system many years ago. His grandfather, worked on it when it was being built. He raised the concern of, like, when was the underground reservoir, when's the last time that's been cleaned or flushed? He talked about how what is it? Not the sand, what's in the water?
Iron?
The iron, thank you, the iron, how it settles on the ground and how it pulls from the bottom of it, and that might just be the brownness that's coming out, if that's not flushed and cleaned out. He had a lot of other ideas, as well as like the sand filter system that was taken out many years ago, and since then it might be more of a problem since then, that sand filter was helping maybe. I don't know anything about all this is just the conversations that I've had, and I want you guys to hear it. People like that have been here for a long time that have worked on it might be a good resource to get information that you're not getting from engineers or people coming in that don't really know the history of where things are. But anyways, that's my spiel. Thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
She's talking about Glenn Grauman.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you.
Well, I did. I would, they did.
When
Not
she
local
went to
enough for that.
grandparents, and break their
I didn't mean to interrupt, but
It's okay. At
grandpa.
first when I heard Grumman, I was like, who's that? But then,
And the Brahmins from Schulenburg.
yeah.
Oh, there are some there too.
Well, is
Thomas
Blackman there?
Brahman
Is it
there.
Rowan? Okay.
I'm a Helen still, I'm learning from him.
Oh,
That's
sure.
great.
Anyone else that hadn't signed up? Okay. I'm gonna turn this over to our city manager, Mr. Dixon, and he can try to give you some specific answers or some of the things that have taken place in the past and what his plans are for the future.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council. Thank you, citizens, for showing up so we can address some of these issues. I know it's a hot topic. I joined Neighbor with Neighbor. I don't-
Neighbors helping neighbors.
Yeah, Neighbors Helping Neighbors, just to find out what's being said, and there's a lot of it on there. I do see your 14 questions here. I'll answer them. I've answered a lot of them already with what I posted here on Facebook as far as what specific steps is the city currently taking to address ongoing water quality issues. Is there a comprehensive infrastructure improvement plan in place? Not to my knowledge, but we're working on getting that done. We're gonna have to begin it incrementally. In the neighborhood down on, Seifert Loop, in that area, there are a lot of 2-inch lines out there, and even smaller lines that just run down the street, and they stop at the end of the street, and they're capped off. And what that does is, that creates a dead end. And as time goes on, the dead end water slowly starts working its way back, and that's where a lot of the dirty water is coming from. But it's also coming from our infrastructure where, I've got a map right there on that wall. It's very difficult to see at that scale. If I could blow it up on the screen here, I could show you where a lot of these lines in those areas, or where the targeted areas are on my study that I did, are cast iron. I'm sure you, as being a plumber, know how cast iron corrodes and closes up like arteries over time. And the same thing with galvanized. It collects debris and it builds up over time, and some of that pieces do drop off. But also, TCEQ was out here today, and they did a investigation into 2 of our wells and both our water treatment stations, and they are within the tolerances of what is acceptable. I don't know what those tolerances are. We'll get the report on it in a few days, the written report, but I know they said that everything was okay as far as they were concerned. Now, when you were out there talking to I about the test and the flushing that they were doing at that firehouse, man, yeah, some brown water came out of there, but I've even had that in my house. And I've noticed at my house and at one of the pumps today, it's like a belch that goes through the system, and then the dirty water starts flowing. I don't know what to say that is, because I'm not inside that line to tell you what is inside that line. But we have implemented a flushing system of all in the dead end lines until we can get them looped. Once we get them looped, that will create a problem where the water will flow more smoothly. It won't, pardon me, be in the lines where it can stagnate and back up. And in some areas, when they flushed them, it came out black, quite honestly. I don't think any of you complained about that part, because it hasn't been that bad yet. But at the end of some of these lines, it just builds up to that point, and we're gonna remedy that with these loops, because then the water will be continuously moving through all the lines. It won't have a dead spot in the line anywhere, but it's gonna take time. It's gonna be incremental. We're working on a tight budget. Our next budget year, we'll be able to push more money toward that aspect of it. Also, incremental fixes. The areas that I have identified were from the complaints that came in here at City Hall at the utilities desk. There were a lot of complaints in Seifert Loop, Barta Loop, Converse Street, what's the name of the street? Franklin. There were a lot of complaints in all these areas, and that's what we're identifying. And as I go through that map over there on a larger scale on my screen, I can see that there's a lot of cast iron and a lot of galvanized iron lines leading into your areas. We're planning on replacing those over time with PVC, which remains clear decades longer than cast iron does. Loops, along with getting these loops on these dead end lines, we're adding flush valves to the end of it so that it can be flushed on a regular basis. We're gonna start off bi-weekly, and we're gonna flush the lines for approximately 15 minutes. That's what TECQ said that we need to do. to keep it as clean as possible. So we're gonna follow their guidelines on that. Should be in the report that they issue to us as well. We're gonna start that as soon as next week. As I said, the cast iron and the galvanized piping has been identified, and the polyphosphates are being added to the remaining wells. We have 3 wells left, I think it's 6, 9, and 10. We're gonna add the polyphosphate systems, it's an agenda item tonight. Each well will cost between $7,000 and $10,000 to have the polyphosphate system added. If we look at doing all 3 at one time, then it exceeds the amount I'm allowed to spend as a city manager of $10,000. So I'll need the council's approval to proceed forward with that aspect of it. But I think that will help as well. Now, what the polyphosphates are, is they go into suspension and they attract the metals, the heavy metals, the light metals, and so forth, and pull those out, and they settle down somewhere in the line or in the bottom of the storage tank, and it doesn't get stirred back up, they just kind of lay there dormant. And that's the critical part about the polyphosphate systems, and that's why I decided to look at adding that. We just have it on 2 wells currently, and 1 well had been down, and we were unaware of that until, Derek, you back there? Yeah, until Derek happened to notice that the solenoid wasn't clicking, and somehow it had been turned off. So we got that back on, and it's operating just fine now. I expect to see improvement over the next, bear with me, over the next few months, but I do expect to see better improvement and better quality overall. I ask for your patience, I ask for your understanding, and we'll guide you as much as we can through the process. I'll answer as many questions as I can here. Can I guarantee that it's gonna be on Facebook? No, I'll make every effort I can. But there's so much time in a day that can be worked, and I'll do everything I can to keep the citizens as well as the city council apprised of the actions that the City of Weimar Public Works Department is taking to get this matter cleared up quickly. Any questions? Yes.
John said that, we're putting this, polyphosphate injectors on some additional wells, that we have them on some. For some reason, we didn't have them on all of them to begin with. Did we have them all covered at one point, and then some were dropped off for some reason? And now we've decided it needs to be added back.
As I understand it from historical conversations with the people that have been here the longest, they only did the original 2 wells that had the heaviest iron content. But over time, we're pumping out of the same underground, what do you call it?
It's not to put you on the spot, but you're gonna be able to answer those questions.
A little bit
Okay.
better than that, yes, because he
You've
was the
been
one
here longer than
that, Derek
2
was the
months.
one that I was speaking with. Yeah.
Thank you, appreciate it.
They just had it on those 2 original wells.
For those of y'all that know me, that don't know me, I'm Derek Schwenke, I'm on the public works side. Okay, polyphosphate was added about a year and a half ago on well 4 and 6, which are on the south side of town. And at that time, it was added because when we had another public works director, you know, these other wells on the north side, you know, it had that high iron contact and all that stuff. It was to where he took those offline and added polyphosphate just to those 2. That's why these other 3 wells don't have any polyphosphate on them. So at that time, that was when we had to do that 1 boil water notice because 1 well went down and Weimar couldn't hold, you know, enough water for everyone. So we had to put these other 3 wells back online, and that's when we're having chlorine issues, we're having dirty water and all that stuff at that time. And that's why the boil water notice went out too. But now, I mean, we noticed we can't just run off of 2 wells, so we're having to keep them all running, keep them exercising and stuff like that, but now we're having to treat these other 3 wells also.
Adding this polyphosphate to these wells, did it help?
I mean, it's hard to say, I mean, cause I mean, the thing is, it goes from the ground, it's being injected, then from the ground, it goes into a ground storage tank. From ground storage tank, it goes with booster pumps and push it to the elevated tower. And then from the tower, it gets through the distribution lines through town. So, I mean, it's hard to say yes or no, but, I mean, those wells down there, I think those didn't have as many issues as these three wells that we're gonna do now.
That Jack put back online.
Correct.
Have any of the engineers recommended any kind of filtration system for these 3 wells? Do we know?
I think Strand did a report, David, correct me if I'm wrong, a while back, and they showed that these 3 wells were high iron and stuff like that, but.
Sulfides.
Yeah, I can't remember if they said anything in the report of what to do to treat it, so.
All the pumped water eventually ends up in the big tower, right?
Correct.
So
See, that's what, oh, go ahead.
we're all getting the same water, but it's going to different parts of town. So is some of the problem related, like a lot of the problem seems to be over in the northwest corner. So does that have anything to do with, maybe you mentioned on to the lines that are feeding that part of town? Some of them are dead-ended, like you said, so we have issues with those lines. And, of course, that's definitely something that can't happen overnight.
Right.
It would be a big budget item. Is there some truth in that statement that it depends on where you live?
I mean,
in the community?
A lot of our complaints are all on the north side, cause I mean, even we had some on this side of town, where, I'll be honest, it looked like oil coming out, you know? But, the thing is, I mean, we're trying to figure out, you know, is there some kind of filter system or something to try capturing a lot of that stuff also, you know? It's hard to say, you know, what's good, what's bad, what's the right, what's wrong, you know? So that's why we're trying to work together to figure out, you know, what's the next step. You know, we're looking right now at polyphosphate to help, you know, like line the pipes and, you know, help, you know, collect as much as we can before we do a bigger investment on something else.
So it coats the pipes as well?
I think so, to keep it from breaking down a little bit more also. But, you know, like this map, you know, I didn't even know how much cast iron and galvanized we actually had out there until, you know, he requested, from Strand, you know, a map and all that, so.
Just so you know, Strand's an engineer company that we third party from, okay?
But,
So, Don, on those, on Franklin and Park Drive, do we know, do those streets have 2-inch dead ends?
That's what the map shows, yes.
Is there a way for us to go out for bids for those areas that we're getting the most complaints now and come to us instead of waiting until October for us to approve a budget? Can we start working on that now for bids? And come
Yes.
back and, we
Yes.
know it's gonna have to be in sections.
And the reason I say that, that's why I mentioned the incremental development. David and I have already sat down and sought areas in the budget, in the water development budget, where we could come up with dollars to go in and do the smaller things that we can handle and handle them in-house with the public works crews. They're gonna be starting, is it next week, David?
Monday, yeah.
yes,
Monday.
Waterloo.
Yeah, on Waterloo, and then we're gonna be moving to the other roads in areas where we know that these 2-inch lines are. And we're gonna be, it's basically like this piece of property has a water line here and a water line here, and it's being fed from everywhere except it's not connected here. So we're gonna connect it here and then run out still within the right of way and come up and add a flush valve, so we can just go over there at any time. We're planning on implementing every 2 weeks, flushing those lines in all the problem areas, the worst problem areas. I mean, I've had it at my house, and I live up here on Main Street, right across from the big tower. And would it be beneficial to, put filters on our elevated water tanks and our ground storage tanks? I don't know how beneficial that would be if a lot of this is coming from our underground lines. I mean, we would be spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on filters, and the problem's past the filter. We're still
Filters on the
pressure.
ground.
Yeah, the filters are on the ground, but the downstream is where it could be coming from. That's my suspect.
You know, these two discussions kind of direct toward the same end, which if we can designate a particular area of common concern, and if we do something immediately, then we can address some of these areas that are significantly worse than others, in the short term, and then everything's pretty much, in terms of our budget, is an incremental approach, because we do have a finite budget, and like everybody else, infinite needs. But we need to do something,
Immediately.
immediately to help folks out.
So there were steps taken already on Summit Street 2 years ago?
Correct. See, like that map is not up to date.
Educate.
Correct. About 2 years ago on North Summit Street from North Street down to Highway 90, it was a 6-inch line that was replaced there. And then we did, I think on Converse, it was a 2-inch line that tied, you know, both 6 inches together to where it was a loop fed right there. But, you know, like some of the locations are talking about like Cypher Loop, we may have to pothole some areas because I know there's fire hydrants in some areas, so that tells you there's a 6-inch at least, main there, but we just don't know how far it goes. So we may, you know, have to pothole somewhere in streets just to make sure, okay, it's been upgraded, but the maps hasn't changed, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's, you know, we may have to do little potholes on the streets or something, to find the mains to see, okay, that's been updated already, but, you know.
Or where it reduces down to the 2-inch line.
Correct.
We don't know where that is exactly, we'll have to just find it.
So there were steps taken that was in problem area, like in front of your house, that I'm assuming that feeds down in that direction.
Correct.
Right, so it alleviated some, but not the final answer, because that's where we don't wanna go spend $200,000 and like, hey, we did this under the ground, well, that didn't fix it. Okay, did we waste $200,000? Probably not, but it still didn't alleviate the problem that we thought the answer was, so. So there's been things that have been done, it's just gotta go with that magic wand and find out where is the one that's causing the problem.
So the study that Strand did they go through and tell us, hey, this size pipe is here at each location and everywhere throughout the town, or what kind of study did they provide?
I'm not sure they did that, they provided a proposed water well or proposed water line improvements plan. That's an old plan. Derek, can you see the date on that plan anywhere? It's very tiny print, because it's just at such a huge scale.
2019.
Okay, that's what we have as far as who did that study in 2019. I don't know if we were with Bethco or Strand at that point, I wasn't here.
Where do you straighten it?
I didn't think we used it for like the last maybe, I think the records I've seen are 12
That
months.
was straight?
That it was.
Oh, okay.
Just trying to see if that study did include that or not, so that's just curious.
Yeah, it did not include that.
Can we get those drain reports, the recent report, the one
Yeah.
from 2019 here?
Yeah, I can forward her email, Holly, Gannon.
He's not been here long enough.
It's easy for you.
I tried. Anyway, that's what I have. I hope that provides some information and insight into the fact that we are diligently working on this problem. We have some constraints to work with, especially here at the end of the budget year, but we're working on that. We are finding dollars to do some repairs with it, and we're gonna keep on this search and hunt mission for you guys.
Questions? I'm okay with what we wanna at least give you guys every opportunity to,
You know, creating a loop system is, I mean, the timeline to do one loop. I mean, you're excavating and putting in an underground line, right? Is it quicker, faster to go above ground with a poly line at time too while you're doing excavation work?
That won't be hard because it's, you know, say if this line is in the middle of the road, you know, then you have to be coming up and then you have to direct traffic or somehow, you know.
Gravel ramps.
Right.
I mean, I work in
Yeah.
oil and gas industry, so, you know, I deal with a lot of, my pump,
Yeah.
putting their water down holes and when I see coming out of my faucet, so.
I mean,
We would be open to suggestions, whatever's the easiest and most cost efficient, yes.
Yeah, and then underground storage tanks, when's the last time those been, you know?
oh, yeah,
drained,
wrote that
cleaned,
down before we go, yeah.
we get that,
When Mike Barrow was here.
Yeah.
well, the thing is, we have an inspector, we just got the report last year, I believe. I think it's a yearly or bi-yearly inspection, and they come out and they inspect all the towers, the ground storage tanks and everything like that.
For the material that's made of, the storage tank, underground storage tank?
This one is concrete, at plant one, which is the oldest, then the other one is just, it's a metal tank just sitting above ground.
Right.
I keep hearing
You know where the other one is.
underground storage tank.
But he had
We
that
have an
system.
underground tank? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, at a warehouse, okay.
And that came in completely clean, that was flat. Like 2 years, 3 years?
I think so.
Cause that, all that repair stuff that they did and all that.
Right. Yeah, one thing we did was, where the water came into that, storage tank at plant one, and it came in here and it immediately went out. So it was both the in and out were on the same side, so water didn't circulate. So Mike brought in, he took the inlet all the way across to the backside of it, so when the water came in, it would cause, movement and stir that water up, and then it would go out. So that was a design change there that helped. And that was about 3 or 4 years ago, I
I
guess.
think so.
It hasn't been too long ago.
Yeah, and then they redid all the valves and painted everything and cleaned it up, so it had a good overhaul about 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
On
I mean,
that
same
particular-
thing, separation and full of gas, right, your inlet's on the bottom, and your outlet's on the top.
Right.
So you're sucking clean water, not all the, then you have, surge valves on the bottom to flush and clean out that sediment. I don't know what y'all tank is up at, but if it doesn't have a way to flush the bottom of the containers,
Mhm.
and then it just creates a vortex in there, and continues the cycle, that's gonna go down your pipeline.
Right.
So,
Do you know where the above ground one is, Thomas?
I think I drove by it, but I've never, studied.
Up by I-10?
By the
By,
ambulance?
by the Union Station, by the Wildcat Academy right there.
Are polyphosphates safe? I mean, how sure are we that they're getting settled down to the bottom and not being turned up into what we get into our houses?
They're supposed to be very safe. I think it might have been in that, I've heard about a strong report, 2019. As I said, I wasn't here for that report. I can take a look at that and see if that's where they required those be installed on those 2 pumps for 2 wells, and let you know what I find there. But I know they have to be pretty safe to be injected
Otherwise-
into the public water supply.
I know there's
Otherwise,
multiple
TCQ would
towns
not do it.
that
Yeah.
use it also.
Mhm. And TCQ saw it all today and they were fine with it.
They understand the processes, and they're all a bunch of engineers.
Above our pay grade.
I go
We
by
gotta
it.
take one. Speaking for myself.
Speaking for myself. Todd, you might, because you deal in plumbing, you might have a little bit of an answer to that. Not that I'm looking for
No,
you
no,
for an answer.
that's above my.
Okay, well, obviously, if it probably isn't safe, TCQ wouldn't allow cities to do that.
Right.
Because they're pretty strict on their stuff, they're there to protect everybody, you and us as well.
You're right there.
So Don, do we have a timeline, so y'all are gonna start in Bartlett looping those 2 inch?
Correct.
And then y'all kind of have a timeline, we think within a month, we may try to get Park Drive,
Yeah.
Franklin, okay?
I think we'd all be well served, kind of purpose Guppy, that, as you mentioned, Don, that someone, you, Danny, somebody, that as we're making these incremental steps, that we advise the public of the same.
That we're moving to a
Because
different
a whole lot of
location.
that stuff that comes up on Facebook or neighbors helping neighbors and the rest, is the unknown. And the worst of a lot of situations is when you don't know. If you're aware, this is where we are now, we've done this, this is coming up in a month, this is 6 months out, this is a year out. It's all impacted by the budget, but to keep people aware of what we're doing, because things have been done, but people aren't necessarily aware of it. But if we could do that, I think it'd go a long way to make them feel more secure in where our situation is and where we're going.
Agreed.
And that's part of where, just like council and myself implemented a city manager's report, which never got done in the past. And that's that education and communication. And that's the 2 words that I deal with every day when I put my 2 feet on the floor, is if you can't educate and communicate with people, they're gonna have ideas other than what really happens. So a great advice or suggestion is just make sure that people are aware of what's going on. Otherwise, theories come up, and then gossip comes
Can't really blame them for that,
Yep.
so.
When you're working on those lines, surely you're gonna let people know, hey, we're gonna be working on your
Yes.
water line, that we,
Door
cause
hangers.
there's gonna be people calling like crazy, cause you're gonna get stuff in there while you're working.
Right, right.
It's gonna be a little sand,
Well, the thing
whatever.
is, like that, whenever, it's kinda like how we do our water leaks, you know, before we would turn it on, or, you know, we'll go open hot fire hydrants, open some faucets on some houses or something like that to flush it once we, you know, energize it or get, you know, water flowing again.
If you
So,
don't let them know.
yeah.
400 more calls.
Yeah, we'll have door hangers and all that to notify citizens.
Luckily, in completing the loops, it's in areas where there aren't houses currently, and there's no water taps in those areas because there's no piping. Those lots could develop at some point in the future, once we get the water all the way around. But it will impact it, I'm sorry.
When those flushes were done, did your water clear up?
Mine,
Yeah.
they flushed it that night, and the next day it's clear as could be.
And that's what I've heard, is that once they do the flushing, it clears up, and then it goes back to brown water again, so it's gotta do something with this flushing.
So all these things are things that are probable, possible solutions, so move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Don.
You're welcome.
Before you sit down,
Yes.
anybody else? I think I'm not putting you on the spot, but you're just you're working out more about the things.
Right.
Are you the one that's qualified now to, worry about the water quality as far as like the chemicals they use and everything?
We have a contractor, EDK Utilities, Evan Kirkpatrick. He's the one, they come in every single day, 7 days a week. You know, they do the rounds, they check the chlorine, they, you know, they were here today with TCEQ also.
So the city, third parties, they don't have an on-staff licensed person?
We're working on it.
Yeah, like I mentioned, you know, she only lives here on this side of town, but her water is sometimes more blue or more seedy or more chlorinated smelling, and
Right.
I just wanted to know if somebody's actually like, knows what they're doing when it comes to
Yeah,
Right.
he's
drinking the water.
fully licensed.
Yes.
Double A?
I think so, yes.
Double A is the highest license you can get.
We do have some interviews occurring tomorrow for a new public works director. Hopefully, we'll get a successful candidate out of that batch. But there's still a 2-week process. I'm assuming they're gonna.
We like your
give a
blue
2-week
shirts, those are blue water, by the way.
Application.
Forget that oil, that oil stuff.
I do wanna add one thing at the very end of this. So, my brother had brown water. He called and it was 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. I think we need to look at having the person that's on call have a City of Weimar phone number. So he said he got a call at like 11 o'clock and it said Grapevine, Texas, so he didn't answer it because he didn't wanna, it was like, he thought it was a spam call. So I think it'd be good, whoever's on call, to actually get them a City of Weimar number, so that way the people know that, hey, the City of Weimar's calling them. Because they were trying to get a sample or something, what's going on with that, but it was a Grapevine number that called, so I don't know who it was or anything like that.
When you call after hours, that's what happens. But he's in that Cypher loop again,
Yes, correct, yeah.
that's
Yeah.
kind of.
But I'm just saying, it'd be nice to have whoever's on call, to have a City of Weimar number, so the citizens go, oh, it's the city calling.
Because they may have used their own personal.
Correct, so I think we need to get something like that.
Utility workers have city phones.
They have city phones, so let them know, use their city phones
Yes.
when they're calling the citizens.
But see, their city phones, like mine is an El Campo number.
Mine's
So
Jenny's.
I had to leave a message to let them know so they could call me back.
Oh,
So if there's a way maybe to look into something like that, because they're gonna get a sample, he called and they had a sample. Yeah, just so they
I
know.
was curious why the city was calling him after he called the property.
You know, I can look into it, we get calls here all the time, and people have funny messages for their name or something. So we can look into saying, making all these phones say City of Weimar.
Correct.
Even if it says Giddings or El Campo, it'll say
Yes.
City of Weimar. I
Maybe
can look
good.
into that.
No, good.
Well, that's
Good-
great.
good
idea.
point.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you. Great idea. Technology today, they can make that happen. And if they can fix our water problem, we'll hire them.
And, we will increase the flushing, separately, so we can get that result from you, okay? So we'll increase that flushing, hopefully that'll help y'all out.
Have we considered Cypress Loop on Park Drive?
Yeah,
Yes.
to us anyways, yet,
Okay,
we know the area.
when I was a kid, I lived on Cypress Loop.
and I thought it was just that block there.
Right.
No, when they expanded that, that all comes off of that. That's why I said it's all in that area there, except Todd, you're further down. And I'm not sure on the south side. I don't have problems with it. I guess I'm not
Somewhere
on a
over there.
dead end.
So
I guess I'm not.
We'll address it. And so I can go again publicly saying, don't post on Facebook, we have water issues.
Call.
You've got to call to City Hall. Because we can't run work orders off of Facebook, or neighbors versus neighbors.
And everybody that calls is documented, we do work orders, and they're all documented, so we have a record of who called and where they are, so it helps us to build maps later on as to where the problem areas are.
Yeah, it really does.
Even if it's 10 o'clock on Friday night, we have someone on call, right?
Yes.
You already know me.
He's got on his phone, Todd, look, he ain't coming up, not.
I'm not gonna answer that one. I'm not rude, I just tell them about that brown water.
Typically at night.
Come tomorrow,
so
always
answer,
tell them y'all can
and
wait
no
till
call.
tomorrow. So, yeah. But it is brown.
So it seems like the problem is more isolated to certain areas. I'm just curious if the polyphosphate is even necessary rather than just swapping the pipes out.
I can't answer that. Again, that's where somebody
Because it's
is.
kind of like, is the problem at the well or is the problem in the pipes? And I feel like if you isolated that more, you could direct the money more properly to the problem.
What I would like to offer to that is, that's why we're gonna close some of these open-ended, dead-end, or these dead-ended loop, make loops out of them. Is that's where some of that could be coming from, is the fact that it has maybe 50 or 100 feet of a dead end, that they didn't loop it together. And
Or the dead
water
ends
gets
only on these various spots that they're talking about, or everything else on
predominantly
the south
there.
side?
No, they're predominantly in these areas that we're talking about.
Mine's a dead end.
Right.
So it's not really.
So like on Park Drive, you got 6 inch going down to that fire hydrant, but then on Gimler and Lester, it's a 2 inch and it just dead ends there. So, I mean, like that one, we might just tie, together,
Across the back.
down Dunn Street, 2 inches together to where it's a loop feed. So,
Y'all can put a tap in behind my house and where I can hook my hose on there. That would help.
see, like yours, why in that alley, they dead end right there? Because I think if they would've continued, there's a 6 inch on
Yeah.
Mechanic Street, so I mean, it would've been loop fed like that. So back then, why they did like that, I don't know, cause all you had to do is another 200-300 feet and it would've been loop fed. So,
And that means your water's continuously moving through the lines.
right.
Not,
See-
there's no dead ends at that point.
See, like Waterloo, the smelly water and stuff like that's because it's not enough water being used, through the pipes, so it's just sitting there getting real stagnant, and it's, that's the smell and everything.
Can you create a temporary dead end at the well, like something that's above ground, temporary, to catch water come off the well to see if that comes back, if the well's problem or the.
We have a flush point at each well site to where, there's times like the well's offline for a while. Before we turn it on and put it into the system, we'll open up that flush point and dump the water right there at the well site before pumping it into the system.
You see, is it clean water, is it dirty?
If it's off for a while, a lot of it's dirty, especially, these with the high iron and stuff like that. So, that's why I think we're looking into, cause I think one of the reports from Strand in 2019 or something like that, the older ones, they, I think, recommended putting polyphosphate on some of these to where as it's coming out of the ground, it's, helping that also. So,
And when ATC came today, the water at, plant one, that underground storage tank, it was clean, it was clear. We didn't see dirty water until Cypher. She did that fire hydrant, and we saw the brown water. You gotta put all these pieces together to try to figure out what's going on with the water system, so. But yeah.
So could it be just something right before Cypher Loop?
I'm sorry?
Could it be something wrong with the lines right before Cypher Loop?
Yes.
The crack?
Well, with the cast iron lines, I would guess, there are cast iron lines leading down that way.
yeah. But see, some of those mains are tied in together already, so, you might have cast iron on here, you might have PVC, and then cast iron, where those mains, if they're all loop fed, you know, it's hard to say, is it this one, is it that one, is it, you know?
Well, aren't we supposed to
but-
be replacing all of those anyways per that letter that they put out in 2024 about the cast iron?
Oh, that was lead and copper,
Lead and copper.
that was in the water meters and, you know, like the copper lines going that into the houses and all that stuff.
But I mean, aren't we not supposed to be replacing the cast iron?
Well,
I don't think there's
To
a
update
mandate
the
on that,
infrastructure?
that's just
Yeah.
something the city is going to do.
right. The letter back then was just, copper and lead, and that was, started last year, and it was just, right now, they want to, get a count of how many lines are out there like that. They didn't implement on replacement yet, but that's gonna be coming down the line,
Yeah,
so.
seems important.
Yes.
Is it ductile iron, ductile iron, or cast, which is the same kind of product? Is it thick?
I think it's,
Inch
yeah,
thick pipe?
right.
Strictly humor. No wonder you bought the house across from the water tower, because you thought that was free water.
Yeah, that was quick and good.
Yeah.
But we've gotten brown water too. I do have photographs. I just haven't put them out there anywhere. We do have them.
Everybody good?
Yeah.
There's no rush.
First time I ever came to a council meeting, so
And I
I appreciate you
appreciate
putting us
it.
on. All the council members, everyone lives in the city of Weimar?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Everyone of them?
I live in the country.
Oh, okay. So if I need some water, I just come borrow.
My daughter is. My daughter is in council.
Council members have to live within the city limits.
As well as myself and the city.
Makes sense.
So we face the same things that you guys.
Yeah.
And that's a great reason why.
I do it, my well's the same way, I've got additives and things, and I blend those water to make iced tea, so, yeah, we have acidic water at where I live out in Osage, so, yeah. Same problems on a different scale, so it's not a perfect world.
Thank you, Jack.
No problem, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to, anybody else want to speak? Okay, we'll move to agenda item number 3. Discussion and action on cost of installing polyphosphate injectors on wells 6, 9, and 10.
So, do we need a lot of discussion on that? I mean, we've already talked about it somewhat already. We discussed the cost that's involved. Derek covered the fact that these are the 3 wells that were in question when they took them down and then they brought them back up just because Weimar needed the water. And it would be in my opinion that if we're using them on 2 wells already, that it would be good to have these injectors installed on the wells. Because this suspension does attract the iron oxide that's in the water and pulls it together and drops it off, whether it's on the sides of the pipe or the bottom of the pipe or what have you. But it keeps it within the piping and keeps it out of hopefully out of the residence.
So when you got the bids, did they say a timeline on when they could actually have this stuff installed and ready to go by chance?
David?
Derek, you,
Pass it down.
we'll do our part as soon as we can. You talk to them, so I don't know.
We had a gentleman come out today, and he refilled one of them, but he also looked at the other 3 sites to see, you know, where it would be placed and all that, but, we still, I mean, that's why in here it's, you know, a ballpark figure. I mean, they still have to, send us
Thank y'all.
the full amount, you know, the total of what's gonna cost, and they'll give us a time frame then. So we're, the ball's in their court, but, it's just waiting to get an email back from them and then, you know, move forward if y'all approve the, you know, say roughly 10,000 a site or something like that, so.
I can't imagine it would take too long, do you want to explain what one looks like, the tank and the catch and all that, and that little?
Basically,
device?
it's just, I think it's like a 200-gallon clear tank, and it just, as we put a plug in, so once the well turns on, it sends power to that and starts injecting it in as the well's running. But, we pour like a 6-foot by 6-foot slab, and then we have a overflow tank, so if something happens, or a containment tank. it stays in there, it doesn't leak everywhere and all that, but, it's basically as the well turns on, it just, and starts injecting the limes.
You said refilling, is that something that city employees can do then, or is it have the same company come out and
The
do
same
it?
company.
Gotcha.
What is it called?
To refill it?
Do you remember?
Was it $400? I think,
It might have been.
I think it's $400 every 6 months.
But I wanna say what the thing is, it depends on how often the well runs, on how much it uses.
Sure.
But, the wells, we pretty much have it to where it's in rotation, so they all should be fairly, once one goes down, they all should be getting pretty low, so.
That should bring a more consistent supply into our existing lines, which should help.
David, do you remember what the price of that one was? Or what one was when they installed
I
it?
don't remember that.
For some reason, I wanna say it was around seven.
I think it was 7,000.
Seven to 8,000.
Yeah, I think it was about 7. I think it was 7.
And that was how many years ago?
One and a half.
Year and a half ago or
Half
something?
ago.
Yeah.
It should be about that same range.
Close to it, I would say.
30,000 should be a close number.
This is your recommendation, Tom?
Yes.
Make a motion that we approve the installing the phosphate injectors on well 6, 9, and 10.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilman Tucker, second from Councilman Scardino. It's open for additional discussion. Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Don't go anywhere there, I'm just kidding. Agenda item number 4, discussion and action of adding 2-inch water loop on dead-end water lines with flush valves.
This doesn't really have a major budget impact on the city because our workers are doing this at the time. Probably the most we'll be adding is the cost of the solvent, the primer, the solvent cement, the fittings, and the pipe itself, and the time digging it out. So our hourly employees are getting paid hourly, so it's not that great of an impact. It's just here to let you know that it's incremental, and it's the beginning of the process, and that we'll keep moving forward. And as more money becomes available through searching in the budget and the new fiscal year coming up, that we will be increasing. And we'll, if something gets beyond our scope, then we will bring it back to the council, ask for approval on any major expenses.
Just strictly informational, do you know from that map how many 2-inch lines that dead end that we have to connect?
They are designated in color. I can stand over there and count them for you if you like. But they are designated in color. I think they're the yellow line.
We know where they are.
Well, I'll make a motion that we, add the 2-inch water loops on the dead end water lines with flush valves.
I second it.
I have a motion from Councilwoman Roberts, a second from Councilman Wilson. Any additional discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 5, discussion and action of replacing variable flow device on well 9 from lightning strike on June 14th, 2025.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, I'm gonna hand this out to each. This is what Mercer Controls has proposed to furnish and install. The lightning strike did such considerable damage that basically they're gonna have to completely remove the unit and add a new unit there. There's a cost here, a complete cost. The high side's projected at $14,362. They say there is a series, they have a different series, Square D Electric, that has a favorable pricing of $84.64. But then they say, but may have further significant expense for installation. My recommendation is go with the $14,362 price tag, because that's the complete price. You don't know, have unknown variables coming in, hitting you for another $5,000 to $8,000 to $10,000 to $12,000. Since they're scared to say what it is, I'm reluctant to recommend approval on the lower price.
And now their thought is that this is the most it would cost, 14,000 362?
That's what I understand from this email that Derek forwarded.
Yes.
And it does come from Mercer.
If it came back more than that,
We have to amend it then.
Yeah, we have to amend the action by the council.
And Dolores, are we gonna file a claim with our insurance company on this?
As soon as y'all get the statement. Can't do it without the statement.
That's right. If we can verify that it was due to the lightning strike, the insurance would bear the cost. They may bear the additional cost of the installation, if there is any.
There you have your chair right there.
Here you go.
Add another
You got
spot.
a chair right here.
Mercer said that he didn't do a statement yet for, saying lightning strike and all that stuff, until he, for sure, which VFD and all that stuff we're gonna go with, and, cause some of the ones that he didn't even get quotes or prices back yet, so he is still waiting on that, but, the $14,000 one is the one that's in there, or, yeah, it's the one that's in there. I think it ended up being like 9,100, but, with travel time and labor and all that, it's around that 14,000. But that's the replacement of what's in there right now, but they're saying there might be a different one that's a little bit, a different brand that may be a little bit cheaper, that, we could go that route, but I think in there it said something about, may have to do, like the replace enclosure or other components or something like that to make it fit. So if you go with the higher one, the 14,000, it's just a swap in the VFD and everything will work.
Well, yeah, the insurance will cover it. I'll make a motion to replace the variable, load device on well 9 from the lightning strike in the amount of $14,362.
Second.
Have a motion from Councilman Christian, second from Councilwoman Roberts. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Agenda item number 6. Where's it going? Discussion and action on proposal from TMR Construction for street improvements, laying concrete paving for bus parking in front of the Weimar Junior High building on Northwest Street at a cost of $16,200.
Mayor, council members, we're asking that this be motion to move this, table this to the next meeting. We did have to go out and get some more bids on this. We've invited 2 more contractors in on that just due to the price of the repair. And we're going to see if we can get a better price than this. There's also been some changes that we went in and modified the specifications so that everybody will be playing on the same ball field. And we wanna see what all those bids come in together collectively. We've had one response here, but he has to make an amendment. We'll have another guy that's supposed to have us a price either late Friday or early Monday, and then we haven't heard from the third contractor that we've invited to bid on this.
And we have this open for bid already once, or is this?
No, this is the first time.
Okay.
And since it exceeded $5,000, we thought, well, we better go ahead and get 3 bids on
Yeah,
it.
perfect.
And we're waiting to get that third bid in and this modified bid here from TMR Construction.
So then at the July meeting, we can vote on this?
Yes.
And you don't have to table it if you just die for lack of motion, it's okay as well.
Correct.
Put it back on July. You good?
Yes.
Okay, so, I'll call for a motion. Okay, I'll call for a second call for a motion. Okay, agenda item number 6 dies for lack of motion. Agenda item number 7, discussion and action on quote from Houston Fab and Truck Rigging, Inc. to outfit the electric truck chassis with a dump bed for $22,001.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, this item I'm gonna turn over to David. He's been doing the cost analysis and so forth on this, and he's gotten bids on what it would take to convert that truck out. I'll let him go into more detail for you to make a better decision in the process.
Yeah, so in this year's budget, we have $100,000 set aside for a 6-yard dump truck. And, I was talking with Mark Switzer, the auctioneer, and he was saying, hey, you know, you could take that, bucket truck, which has 6,462 miles on it. Derek, do you remember what year that is?
2016.
2016, it's immaculate inside. Take that, and this fabricator here can put, a dump truck bed on there, and I called and got quotes. And he said he can do it, for $22,001, is what he came up with the bid. So we would have to take the bucket truck back off, and just take in the chassis, and he has to modify the chassis a little, shorten it up a little bit, and then he'll, put the, dump bed on the back. So basically, we'll be getting almost brand new dump truck for $22,000.
You haven't had any issues with that vehicle, currently?
No.
It was, we took that new chassis and we put the, bucket truck bed on it, thinking we'd save money. Well, we put a 25-year-old bed, bucket truck on it, and now it can't be certified anymore. It's aged out and it can't be certified, so we have to take a decent chassis with a useless bucket truck, so. I mean, why would we sell this, chassis for a few $1,000s in an auction when we can utilize it ourselves? So it's got a lot of value for the city, I feel.
Anybody else? Discussion?
Make a motion, we let Houston Fab and Trucking Grading Incorporated to outfit the electric truck chassis with the dump bid for $22,001.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilman Scardino, a second from Councilman Tucker. Any additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We'll go to agenda item, which is on the addition to the agenda of a special call meeting. Discussion and approval of ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Division 6, Chief of Police, Section 1.05.104, qualifications. Requirements for police chief to live within the city limits. You wanna start?
Yes. Pass it out, please, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I had a committee of professionals, the local surrounding police chiefs and the sheriff's department, with the deputy.
Chief.
Chief, okay, just wanted to make sure I got it right. And we've had a lot of items that come up, and I'd like to read to you, what we've drafted up here. It says, "Dear Mayor and council members, I'm writing to inform you of the ongoing challenges our city is facing in the search for qualified and experienced individual to serve as Weimer's next chief of police. While we have received interest in the position, one recurring barrier has significantly limited our applicant pool, the current residency requirement mandating that the police chief reside within the city limits. After reviewing the applicant feedback and consulting with other municipalities of similar size and structure, it has become clear that maintaining such a strict requirement is impacting our ability to recruit the best candidate for the critical leadership role. I respectfully recommend that the city council consider amending the residency requirement to allow the chief to live outside the city limits, provided they can respond to an emergency situation within 30 minutes. Allowing this flexibility provides several important advantages. Number one, it expands the talent pool. Many qualified candidates reside in nearby communities but are not in a position to relocate. Adjusting the requirement opens the door to a broader and more experienced group of applicants. Supports recruitment. Item number 2, supports recruitment and retention. This change reduces the personnel and financial burdens of forced relocation, making the position more attractive and sustainable for potential candidates and their families. Item number 3, ensures operational readiness. A 30-minute response radius ensures the chief remains readily available for emergencies and critical incidents, maintaining the safety and responsiveness of our community expects. Item number 4, recognizes modern capabilities. With the technology and communications tools available today, The chief can remain in close contact with staff and the city leadership at all times, even when not physically in the city limits. Item number 5, aligns with regional best practices. Many similar sized cities in Texas allow department heads to reside outside the city, provided they can respond promptly when needed. I firmly believe this change will significantly improve our ability to attract and retain the right leader for our police department, while continuing to uphold the high standards of service and accountability that our residents deserve. And I thank you for your thoughtful consideration of this matter, and I look forward to discussing this recommendation further in our future council meetings.
Kevin, come up and introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, council. My name's Kevin Daniel. I'm the chief deputy for Colorado County Sheriff's Office. I was a part of the committee here along with some of the other chiefs in the area. And as Levin pointed out, we did get a group of applicants and we helped Commissioner Dixon go through those applications. And some of them didn't meet the qualifications for as their commands, the command they have. Although some we did interview, their idea of coming to your residency was bring a camper trailer and living here. And we know that's not what you are looking for. And we feel that there are some other candidates that some of us know, that we've talked to some police officers that have a lot of experience that would be a good fit for your department, that had interest in applying here, but they live, their established residencies maybe 5 or 10 miles, 15 miles outside its limits. They live in the country, and they're just not interested in moving into the city limits because of their established residencies already. So the discussion with all of us is what we come with, is if you did expand that area slightly, as many of the police chiefs in the area, they do have, quick response times to their departments. And we feel like it would bring more qualified applicants to you guys. We're committed to bringing the best applicant for y'all for long term. And we work in Colorado County, and we want to have the best working relationship with them. And these local applicants that may not be in the city limits, but they're in a real close proximity, would be able to work real well. They're local. They understand the communities, Weimar, Columbus, Schulenburg. They understand small town communities, and we feel like they would have better applicants come in that we'd be able to look at.
I don't know how the rest of the council people feel, but the way I feel about this here, we need he or she need to live in the city of Wyoming. They need to grow with us. We're paying their salary. They need to stay here. They need to live here in Wyoming and grow with us. We can love on them. We're good. So I think that person needs to live in the city limits of Wyoming.
I understand that. I feel like that if you do extend the boundaries, you still have a local person that still attends community events. Their children still go to school here. They're still invested in the community as well. That could still take place if they live within a local proximity area that would be able to fit that need that y'all need.
I think we still can find a good candidate to come and live in Wyoming. I really do. When they applied for the job, they knew the job was here in Wyoming. It wasn't LaGrange, wasn't in Columbus, wasn't in Schulenburg, it was in Wyoming. They got to realize that. If they want that head job, chief of police, then they need to come and live in Wyoming. I don't know how the rest of the council people feel, but that's the way I feel. You're not gonna change that.
Yes, sir.
So Kevin, are y'all as a committee, are y'all recommending, I see the proposed ordinance is 5 aerial miles outside of city limits, is that what y'all would say would be?
Us on the committee, it was like I said, myself and other police chiefs in the area, we did not come up with the 5 miles, just a close proximity. The letter that was drafted that Mr. Dixon read said 30-minute response time. So that's, give or take, but we feel like that, most, if an emergency happens, they can be there real quickly. Like I said, with the technology that's available, they are always, available to the person, but it's still a local community that would still be a part of the community here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Kurt.
I've always been a big proponent of living in the city limits. I've done some homework and found out that we're probably one of the only cities in our immediate area that still requires our chief to live in the city limits. And, I know change is hard, and I'd still prefer they live in a Weimar zip code, but I would be open to expanding that. If that really is the issue, I don't think we need to count somebody out strictly because of where they live.
Well, that's the thing too, I mean, with that restriction in place, we don't know. We have spoken myself to other peace officers that are qualified. Some of the other chiefs on the committee have spoken to peace officers that say they would apply. But there may be more out there that we don't know that would be a really good fit for the police chief here. And with that restriction in place, they're just not applying for the job.
Is this, I guess, proposed change, would it apply to what's going on in Schulenburg, Columbus? I guess those are the closest, that their chiefs don't live within the city limits, Schulenburg and Columbus, for example?
I'm the chief of Columbus and I don't live in Columbus.
Okay.
How far out do you live?
I live about 500 yards.
That would be an exception.
Well, you Columbus then.
30 minutes is a little different, but 500
He lives
yards.
out of the city limits, his kids went to the.
But with your strict requirement that you have, I couldn't apply for your job.
I know.
If Columbus had the strict requirement that you have, I couldn't apply for that job. I don't live within the city, outside of the city. I built my house with my own 2 hands. I wouldn't have moved into the city of Columbus to take that job.
I believe LaGrange lives out in the city limits.
Chief Gilbert, they actually did what they're trying to do right now. They changed theirs so they could do that.
Hallettsville lives outside, Schulenburg, he does live
Yeah.
inside the city limits.
But Schulenburg does not have a requirement.
They do not.
He did tell us whenever he became police chief, he lived outside, and then when he was there for a while, he did move into the city limits.
That was by choice.
Yes, sir.
Well, having served on this committee, would you say this is the primary obstruction to finding a chief?
I believe so. I mean, we did look through several applicants. We did out some that just didn't meet the qualifications, that what they didn't have any command experience or the level of their years of experience, stuff like that. The ones that were left, they were from further off places. There wasn't really local to our community. And then interviewing them, it was apparent they didn't really have plans of really moving here and establishing here. So that's why we kind of come to this, that people that are established here in the area that might apply here, that they don't plan on moving anywhere else. It's not a stepping stone to come here for a year or two and leave somewhere else. You know, they're in this area, they don't want to leave this area. May live, you know, on family land or small acreages, you know, real close to the city limits, but still in the community. And it's an unknown, but if you don't open it up, we could get more applicants and be able to go through a new set of applications.
I've lived in this town all my life, and we've always had a chief of police in this town. They weren't born and raised in Weimar. They did come here and they lived here.
Bill Livingston did live in this town, man.
No, I'm not, I'm way before Livingston, okay? Way before Livingston. Correct. Livingston didn't, and there was an issue, but he did move closer to Weimar. He was.
But still out of the city.
He was in a different county, and, oh yeah, then he moved and he was still in a different county, but, all right. But anyway, go ahead.
I think it's very important that we all mention here today in front of the citizens, employees, and the city representatives that we're all in it together. We're looking for what's best for the city of Weimar, for the citizens, and as the chief. I think everyone here would encourage the chief to move to the city limits. But I also think what if somebody has property, that family land, and they're, X amount of miles outside of Weimar, they're still part of Weimar. Because the Weimar zip code, they can live in Oak Ridge Ranch, it's still a Weimar zip code.
Correct.
So, that's all I wanted to really throw out there. And that we're all in it together, and I really encourage, and I talked to Chief about this, I have not talked to the mayor's or city manager about this, but maybe the next time when we do open up for more applicants or anything else like that, maybe we need to involve somebody from, whether it's council or from the city, on that committee during the interviews. I think that's extremely important that y'all get involved with it also.
Certainly along the same lines of Kurt's, I've been adamant about the applicant living within the city limits. I just think that is a critical piece. But I'm beginning to feel concerned, I don't feel like we need to be obstructionists either in terms of finding the most qualified person. So, for me to even suggest that is hard to believe. Having experienced the last year of the things that we've gone through over this city limits issue. So, I certainly want the best applicant, and I think it needs to at least be considered if that is the primary obstruction to finding the most qualified person.
Can I ask you a question? I mean, does the city of Weimar or the police force, you know, the sheriff's office, come out like a standard of like promote from within? You know, because when you create glass ceilings for individuals, how do you retain them? You understand that?
Mm-hmm.
Does the current police force right now not have a qualified guy that is capable and competent to do the job? Because I feel like I've met a lot of the city, you know, police force, and, you know, there's some good guys. So I'm wondering, like, you know, why has the council, you know, not approved one of those candidates that, you know, have applied for the thing? If it's where he lives, or if it's a duration of time, you know,
Yeah, if you're
common
gonna-
sense goes a long way.
You're gonna start changing criteria, what have y'all kicked out, y'all kicked out or turned people away already for the job that didn't meet some criteria? I feel like you're gonna open up some like floodgates of like, oh, I didn't get the job because of this criteria, you know, and y'all are now changing the rules?
Well, no,
So
no,
that's-
just put it on the table. I'm just asking, like, you understand what I'm saying, Sarah? It's like, promote from within, right? If you have competent, capable people that you move up the ranks, then, you know, you don't create a glass ceiling where people don't have opportunities to grow within, right? So you got good, you know, officers on the police force that say, man, I'm never gonna get there, so I'm just gonna leave and go somewhere else.
And that might be
Right.
because they don't want to see it
You
too.
know, same with the sheriff's office. You don't constantly create those opportunities for your employees, you know, you can't retain. You know, I run, you know, several oil and gas companies that are hundreds of people, you know, big, and you have to create those opportunities, you know, just throwing it out there.
Certainly the culture that you want to cultivate, sir. Without knowing the details of what's happened in these meetings.
Oh, for sure.
Don't know if that's the culture that you want to cultivate.
I mean, this guy right here might be a good chief. I don't know.
As a real estate agent here, I will say it is hard right now for anybody to move. So I can understand your, you know, reasoning of like, let's see if we can get somebody out of town because they're already living there. There's not a lot of places to live here that are affordable, and I don't know the salary a chief is gonna make and what they can afford, to move. Then you have to also sell your house there or whatever the situation is, so there's a lot of other obstacles besides just wanting that person to live here.
Sorry.
Our city manager managed to do it.
Yes, he did.
Must be paid well now, right?
Quite honestly.
Well, he gets paid more than we do.
Quite honestly, my wife and I's children are grown. We have grandchildren that are established in their own parental families.
Perfect.
And we get the visits from them, and we get to visit them, but it's not like we're picking up our families, children out of school and elementary and junior high age kids, and move them into a brand new environment right in the middle of the school year and things of that nature. It's a lot easier for my wife and I in our older years to be able to do something like that.
Well, having moved for a similar reason, I'll say that is true.
Mayor, I'd like to, go to executive session on this topic.
Okay, let me read that before. The city council.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Reserves the right to adjourn into executive session at any time during the course of the meeting to discuss any of the matters listed above as authorized by the Texas Government Code, sections 551.071, that happens to be consultation with the attorney, 551.072, deliberation regarding real property. 551.073, deliberation about gifts and donations. 551.074, personnel matters. 551.076, deliberation regarding security devices and security audits. 551.086, certain public power utilities competitive matters. 551.087, deliberation regarding economic development. And 551.089, deliberation regarding security devices on security audits. And we will go into executive session at 6:50.